Hey, ow, still 100%. Should we play? Should I make a game? Damn it. Hey, how's it going? Right. So where have we got to? We've got kind of like basic starting scene here. It hasn't changed much in a very long time. I've been tinkering with the engine too much rather than actually doing anything. So let's start off by tinkering rather than doing things. So we're going to move animations into the RAM file because at the moment, if I launch the introduction script, they're just in a big heap at the top, which is not a good place to have them. Not at all a good place to have. Oh, fine, I'll delete my agenda. Don't need it anyway. Got all these in a big heap at the top. So I'm going to start making some import files I can get those from. So I don't need to. I think the characters I'll definitely do that with. The background, not so much. All right, so where are my characters? Here they are. Oh yeah, sure. I would normally be a bit more kind of active during these sort of development streams. I'm sort of still not 100%. How's it going your end? So pull these into the RAM file. That's good. Oh yeah, we need to actually import the mesh stuff into here so we can actually use these imports. What they're called? They're called macros, aren't they? I've programmed in C before, I think. Right, so should have a mesh file and it should be an animation. Where do they leave animations? They're in entities for some reason. And oh, this is the header file, not the implementation file. So, oh my god, I'm already getting lost. What am I doing? Right, so get rid of that and get rid of that. And what I need to do instead is actually just declare those animations are going to exist. So, yeah. And then we'll be able to import this file, and then we won't have any of this stuff in there, kind of like script. Because I want the scripts to just be, you know, almost kind of like scripts, just a list of this is what's in the scene, this is what happens. All the details of how it happens needs to be somewhere else. Okay, I think that'll do us. And then we can get rid of meshes now, we don't need them here. And these should also be extern because they're being defined in a C file, and they won't exist by the time we get to here. Next up, we can do the same for the angel. Oh, not angle. I do that so many times. What do we have? Oh, I've only got the one animation right now, haven't we? Yeah. Oh, and there's like animations for the curtains and stuff. Oh, so I might also move these into, I think I've got like a rooms folder in here. Yeah, there it is. Oh, and I've got these holdovers from previous version of the project. I will get rid of those. They're not relevant to this project. I can get rid of that. That was an agenda from the last stream. Okay. Man, I should really clean up these kind of like unstaged changes at some point. But they're all full of to-dos. Right. Yeah, it's only the one animation for the angel at the moment, but there will be far more later on. Oh, helps if you actually bring... I brought in everything you need to make the animation, but not the animation itself. And next up, we're going to move the room details into that file because there's quite a lot of them actually. That's instantly made this file way shorter. I'm going to start cleaning all this up next as well. I'm actually tempted to, because I found that if I unpackage like all the stuff to do with the characters, like there's not actually that many files to do with each one, so it's not really worth putting them in their own folders. Organization, do I do it? Do I not do it? I don't know. Let's move it all that while we're here. Nearly there. We can get rid of that. And I'm just going to put those back into here. Because I'm going to be copying these over down to here and using it to make a file for the apartment. So we can just import that from our script and just have all the animations ready to go. Oh, I never actually brought in that other header. Let's sort that out now. Right, what am I doing next? Right, so all of this can all go straight into here. And now this file is getting way shorter, way easier to read. I can do a much better kind of like job of starting to clean this up. And most of this can probably go as well. I need to add some imports to this file for so exports for these. Right. And then this will probably fail to build because I need to go back into here and add all the imports I need. Let's have a look. Let's do a parallel build because we changed header files. It's going to recompile everything. Okay, those are our errors. What do we have? Ah, it's not a pointer. That's the problem. It's an actual animation. Do the same with, where are you? Oh, and they can't be const either. All right, okay. Yeah, they can't be const because they contain. Yeah, I need to figure out at some point what is and what is not going to be const because I actually have no idea. There's something I learned very recently about how the const operator kind of works when you use it with a pointer, like because you can actually put it in. I thought you could only put it at the start of a type declaration, but it turns out that you can actually put it, say, there, and it actually has a different meaning. Like one of them, I don't remember which way around it is. One of them means a pointer that you can't change, and one of them means a pointer to something that you can't change. I need to figure that out, get that into my head. Right, so this is where it's failing to, it's failing to grab these details, so we need to import them from the appropriate files. So it's rooms apartment.h. Is it 2 levels of directory up? Don't know. And we'll bring in our protagonist and Angel character. Now I'm expecting this to fail as I've moved a few things around, but it'll probably fail at the linking stage, not at the compile stage. I think it was the room I changed, wasn't it? Where's the apartment? Oh, yeah, the reason I actually moved it out of a directory is that the code generation meant that it was doing sort of apartment to apartment. It's kind of dumb. Get rid of that. And do the same in here. And see, at the moment that's failing because it can't, that's the link stage failing because it's generating code that doesn't line up with the imports we've just written. Line this back up. What's this talking about? Oh, so I haven't quite lined it all up yet. And these are now moved as well, yeah. Do we have any more instances of that in the entire code base? Because we shouldn't. That built, does it actually work? Oh my god, it actually works. All right. So next up, we need to, these aren't named particularly well. They're named as if they're kind of local to the script still. Let's see here, for instance. Yeah, they've still got EF script test on them, so let's see if we can sort that out. So in this file, everything starting EF script test should actually be EF rooms apartments. Yeah, that would make more sense. And then do the same in here. Let's be consistent wherever we can. Enough of this thing where kind of like the file name doesn't match the name of the things inside it, because if it did, we'd end up with like, again, rooms, apartments. This code generation clearly isn't quite right. So again, we're going for everything that was named because it was previously local to that test file. We're instead naming it because it's, yeah, it's being exported. So no overdone. Again, it's going to recompile everything, so change the header file. Wish there was a better way around that, don't think there is. A thrilling stream of just renaming variables over and over again. Okay, what's this? What's this talking about now? Let's just do a non-parallel build so we can get some sane errors out of this. Okay, redefinition as a different type of symbol. Oh, hang on, because I have an animation and a frame of the animation with the same name. Okay. That's kind of not great design on my part. So I can rename the animation more easily than I can the frame, so I'm just going to do that. Now I probably have an animation called sitting. Yes, I do. So I'm going to call that animation as well. Kind of annoying. And just for consistency, let's name them all the same thing. If I'm going to put an annoying suffix on some of them, might as well be all of them, right? I've changed the header file. Right, well, this is talking about now. What's it talking about? Oh, almost there. Almost back where we started, with things in slightly different places. Okay, does that build? Looks like it's going to build. Nope. I should never have said that, should I? Come on, build. Build. Okay, I can see it going alphabetically. We're almost the end of uppercase. Okay, it didn't crash. That's good. Commit it. Right, so next thing I need to do now, I've gotten all that cleaned up a bit, is I need to... yeah, that's right. I need to get rid of this dialog box I'm currently sticking on top because there's only there for test. So pull that out of there. And I was going to have this kind of pause. And then I was going to put some dialogue up. So I was going to do it right here. And I think I was also in the middle of working on kind of like a helper that would mean that, per se, like dialogue that you can dismiss in sort of one click. I was going to have a helper for that. But who do I have talk first? Would it be the person who just burst in, or would it be the person who just woke up? I think I'll have the I'll stick with what I had before. I had kind of like this other character speaking. I've realized though that I'm going to have to change the design of my kind of like dialogue helper a bit. So I had this idea that, oh yeah, I'll just pass in some text and I'll be able to render it. But because of limitations of the list component I've made, I can't. I want to be able to pass in. So the way this works is that the kind of like font helper thing has the ability to kind of like write text. It means that you can actually write some really complex text. You can write stuff with multiple fonts, all that kind of stuff, and it supports it all in one go. But that means that you don't pass text directly to, say, the function to add an item. It actually gets buffered inside the font helper, meaning that you can only pull it out of there in the order you put it in. Right? You can put stuff into the font helper, draw it, put stuff into it, draw it. That's a bit of a problem because I want the ability to put in complex text at the bottom of the list and have simple text for the kind of like header at the top. So I guess I just can't do that. I'm just going to have to make this so that it just returns the component ID of the list so you can append whatever you want to it. Okay, so create a dialog box, fix to create a list component to an existing entity which closes when the cursor selects anything on the screen. We don't have the ability to have a heading. We just have the entity ID. And then we're going to return the ID of the created list component. And this is purely because we're going to be making a lot of dialog boxes. We don't really want to be custom writing, big chunk of code like this for every single one of them. Oh, and this kind of offset here where I'm actually specifying exactly where to kind of like align it. Probably quite good to have that in that sort of character file so that I can just go, oh yeah, it's where his head would be, where it's standing up, things like that. What am I doing? I'm bringing in the types for the component ID and entity ID. That's what I'm doing. Yeah, definitely not recovered from earlier in the week. So what do we have in here? A whole lot of really outdated stuff. Probably best off just discarding this, to be honest. Let's make it so you don't have to close the existing dialog box. Oh, hang on. I can't actually safely do that, as we won't know from here when that dialog box has been destroyed. Yeah, that's fine. Right, and that's right. Okay, so yeah, previously I was actually making an entity in here and this guy's trying to attach a component. So this is not going to be an entity ID, it's going to be a component ID. and we no longer have to store the location here. The dialog's now doing that itself. We no longer have this pre-render in here. It does nothing for us. I was considering getting rid of pre-render because it seems like a bit of a hack. Not the good kind of hack either. So I'm just going to do that now. I put it in specifically to kind of support this, and if I'm no longer using it for this, it's basically kind of like for kind of callbacks that execute between the game logic and rendering, but I'm not going to have those anymore. Let's cut complexity wherever we can. So it's gone from there, and it's gone from there. If we ever want it back, it's easy enough to put back in. We're no longer adding components ourselves. We're just making the list component and then returning it. This is a very, very, very outdated list component. Okay, yeah, we can kill all of this off. We don't need any of this. So we're definitely passing in the entity ID, and we're not going to pass in a component ID. So the component ID, if you pass that in, it's purely to say, kind of like to the system that, hey, don't delete this automatically when the entity is deleted. It's actually owned by another component that needs to be responsible for deleting it so it knows that it's been removed. Yeah, so it has no parent component ID. Vertically, it's going to be above, so aligned to the bottom, and horizontally, it's going to be aligned to the middle. And then we're going to pass in that location. Maybe I should have kept that array everywhere. Yeah, I don't see many cases in which you wouldn't have them already packaged up as an array, to be honest. No longer have this. Hey, it's much smaller now. In fact, there's almost nothing to I've actually applied all this kind of design changes I've made. There's basically nothing to this at all. It's almost like questionable whether this actually has any value now I've done all that. All right. Man, I need to check how much of this I'm actually using. I don't think I'm using much of this. Like, am I making any references to cameras in here? No. Am I making any references to matrices in here? No. I'm definitely making references to pointers. I'll keep those. List components, making references to those, and errors. Okay, yep, that's all good. So I didn't keep a reference to the protagonist. I should probably do that. And I should probably start naming these a bit more meaningfully. Let's make these as long as possible. Is there like anti-code goal for making the longest variables? I don't know about talented. I'm mostly just too belligerent to stop when I really should. Okay. Yeah, I take this variable. Where was it? Where was it? I know I had it somewhere. I think it's 1.6 meters. Yeah, 1.6 meters tall. Our kind of protagonist is. Put this into the file with the protagonist in it, just so I have it kind of available. standing head location. Yeah, that'll do. So how do I describe this? It's just the location of his head when he's standing up, I guess. I'm going to have a sitting one because he's it's a bit shorter when he's sitting, and also I'm using kind of like the center of the feet as kind of like the origin point for sitting, so it means that he'll stand up kind of correctly. But that means I actually need to offset this back, say 0.6 meters. And then let's just put these into the header file so we can use them from other places. Okay, that's sitting head location. There we go. And it should be helpers list. There we go. And then we should have the protagonist, entity ID. I think it was just a location, wasn't it? Yeah, so now we write some text and we dump it into a line. It's not a header. I'm thinking not having a header at all on this dialog box because at this point you don't know anyone's names, and I might not actually name the protagonist. I'm actually considering making it so like the name of the antagonist is something that you don't necessarily learn on a playthrough. I think that'd be quite interesting. I think because this game is kind of like based on a dream I had. The day before I had the dream, I saw a movie called 12 Angry Men, I think from like over the 50s or 60s. And I don't think they named any of the characters in that, and I thought that was kind of interesting. That'll do, I suppose. Okay. All right, I think that'll get us back to where we were supposed to be. I've changed the header file, haven't I? I should do another parallel build. Oh, yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point in language. Yeah, I'm not supposed to initialize. If you mark something extern, it's saying it's not here, but it does exist, honest. Oh, I just got an interesting notification. Important updates to Unity runtime. Yeah, no thanks. Not using Unity today. Okay, since we're building, let's do parallel. All right, okay. So it does animation, kind of like recover a bit, and then there's a dialog box. Hey! Oh, I got so excited then it looked like it was going to work. All right. Let's just have a look at the positioning of that dialog box again. So I think I've actually moved it the wrong way because the center is kind of here and I meant for it to kind of be more there. So let's go to our protagonist file and where I've got 0.6 meters here. Oh yes, because I'm using Blender's coordinates space, and for some reason in Blender's coordinate space, negative Z is away from the camera. Very strange. I've never quite understood why. There we go. There we go. Right. Now, it currently crashes whenever I click, and let's see if we can figure out why. I'm going to assume it's this. What error do we actually get? Let's go open the inspector. Indirect call to null. That usually means we have a callback somewhere. Yeah, it's deleting that component is kind of crashing everything. Are we actually assigning this anywhere? We are not. That's why it's crashing. So what's happening here? What's happening here is that we're making a list and we're returning it so that we can attach text to it, but then we're not actually storing it. So when we actually click on the script on the screen, it's trying to delete nothing. And what it's probably doing is it's probably going, because this being the component file, it's going to be going to the destroy part. It's going to be right, call the destructor for it. Call the code that destroys this component, and it's going to be like off the end of the list and into infinity pretty much, because it's a very big number, the non-component, just so it's really obvious if you got it wrong. So all we really need to do to fix this is assign that variable and before we return it. Now, a problem with this I've just realized is I didn't actually have like a callback here. So this this dialog box will disappear whenever we click on the screen, but nothing else will ever happen. There's no way to have something kind of happen once you've dismissed dialog. So I need to put a thing in here. Let's nick one from somewhere else. Because I can just never remember the syntax for this. I can never remember what you actually have to type to put this in. It's a function pointer. That's a function pointer declaration. That's what I'm after. So it's entity helpers list. Yeah, that'll do. So we're going to have a callback in here. Just document it quickly. Callback executed when the list is dismissed. Yeah, that'll do. Executed when list component is dismissed. And it's not going to have any parameters, don't need any. We need to go around to the implementation. We've told everything else in the application that, that we're changing how you interact with this, but we haven't actually changed what happens when you do. So we're going to need another global variable just to store the code that will execute when you click on the button. Won't bother initializing it because it doesn't really matter. We'll be initializing it in here before we ever read from it. And then in here, when we've actually destroyed the list component, that's when we execute it. Now this will fail to build because we've just changed the syntax of this. Well, we've added a new parameter that isn't there, so it's kind of flagged that up. So we can probably get rid of this list component global variable. Yep, that's no longer needed. And for the sake of testing, let's make it spawn another one over the angel's head. I typed angle again. Damn it. And we're going to make a variable kind of similar to the one we just made for the protagonist, so that we can just position things over the angel's head without having to constantly repeat how tall they are. I think the angel's a bit taller though. I think I've made them 1.8 meters. So let's do that. Oh yeah, and we actually need to make a variable for that so we can actually store the angel. Don't need a model matrix for them. That's a holdover from back from when you were having to supply. Yeah, in fact, a lot of this is holdovers. Yeah, this angel model matrix is a holdover from when the entity system didn't have its own copy of the position of something. You had to kind of pass it in. And while we're here, before I forget, let's prefix all of these nicely. Oh, I should have only done it with one. Yeah, it's this really nice feature where you can kind of like, you can select multiple lines of text at once, but I kind of just screwed myself over a bit because I selected 2 lines of text and I'm going to be pasting into 3, so it doesn't make a lot of sense. And where's our world entity? Oh, it's there. I'll leave it there. No, wait, it is a global, so I do need to prefix it. Okay. We can get rid of that. Don't need that anymore. Oh wait, there was a reason I had a copy of its matrix. It's just named poorly. Okay, I'll put that back in. No big deal. And it's the model matrix. Okay, we're almost there. Yeah, this is definitely not the most elegant scripting language ever. This is not exactly Lua or ScumVM or anything like that, but it should be good enough for the kind of thing we're doing. I'm hoping to find like, you know, common patterns and then sort of build well, stuff like this entity helpers just to make it a bit easier to work with. But I won't know what the patterns are until I've made a few scripts of it and then gone, oh, this needs adjusting or whatever. Okay, let's see what that does. It fails to build is what it does. Hey, how's it going? How's it going? I'm mostly just breaking things tonight. What is this talking about? Oh, it's another pointer. What's this talking about? Incompatible function points. Oh. Oh, that's fine. Yeah, rather than using the kind of like callback I was passing in to say do this when the dialogue's dismissed, I was going. So I'm like, oh yeah, just take a reference to yourself. That's wrong. Yeah, what kind of new stuff? Because there's tons of stuff in there. I'm always kind of like impressed with how much stuff there is in here. And somehow it still runs well, which I can't say for Visual Studio Proper. Visual Studio Proper is actually a native application. Doesn't that lock the screen? Are you sure? I don't know. Why would it? It's a good question indeed. I remember good old days of playing Robot Rage on, well, I think it was pre-Miniclip, and people go in the comments, oh yeah, just Alt F4, it just wins the game automatically for both of us actually. Okay, so should after the animation should put a dollar box over this guy's head, and then it freezes. Oh, it worked. For some reason, there's a missing line across the top. That might be a state bug without this component. Okay, that actually kind of worked. That's genuinely shocking to me. So yeah, let's commit that while we're ahead. Need to put the real dialogue back in this at some point. Hey, Windows L is actually really useful. I use it all the time. The macOS equivalent is actually a real kind of sort of a tongue twister for your fingers. It's macOS. There we go. Oh, they haven't actually put the keyboard shortcut in the documentation. That's great. Command Control Q. So kind of you have to do a bit of a claw on left side of the keyboard. But if you mix it up, because like it's got like so many modifier keys, you can instead press log out, which log out, which isn't great. Okay, do I seriously just commit this as cleanup? Because I might just do that. Let's just do that. Why not? Let's make a mess. Okay, so question number one I have is why is it? See, you got the line across the top of here, but oh wait, we've got one this time. Huh. Now, I'm pretty sure that isn't kind of an uninitialized memory thing, because in WebAssembly, all memory is pre-initialized to 0, so that should always be doing the same thing. Interesting. Right. Let's go to our introduction script, and let's change this dialog to be a bit less silly. So the kind of angel comes in and is like, hey, time's arrived, and that's when we're going to present our first dialogue choice. So it's going to be in here. And I am gonna have to have a global variable for this. Oh well. So we're going to attach this to. I mean, to be honest, what I'm doing right now is insane, and I would not recommend anyone build a game engine from scratch and see. It's mostly morbid curiosity of how hard it could be. Building a website is definitely a more marketable skill than writing a game engine in C. If you're going to do it, if you were going to learn any skill, it would definitely be that one. I am actually going to redesign this API so it takes in an array, because I'm basically always going to be using an array. So what kind of technologies are you learning to be able to make a website? Is it starting with HTML, or is it something a bit more involved, like say JavaScript or any of the myriad languages? Python. Python's probably not a bad one to learn. Personally, don't really like the language, but it's a very good one to learn. It's kind of like a getting your foot in the door in a lot of places. A lot of places use Python. Why did I do it like this? Why did I take in a list rather than just an array? I mean, ultimately, if you've actually got a really good understanding of HTML and CSS, you've actually got the one up on a lot of people. A lot of people who are web developers are very, very surface level with their knowledge of them, of those kind of fundamentals. Oop, didn't like that. What didn't it like? I'm going to do the same in here. Basically always going to be passing these in as an array. I think. Yeah. I think I had these separated from back when I was going to be calculating them every frame rather than just having the image component doing its own kind of positioning. So that makes way more sense. I could write this as a for loop rather than copy pasting, but wouldn't actually be any shorter. Change the header files, do a parallel build again. Yes, I can explain the parallel serial build thing. So make is basically like a big stack of rules, right? It goes like, if you want a file matching this, you need these dependencies, and then you execute these kind of like shell commands. Very nice. And if you do make, it'll do one thing at a time. It'll execute one rule at a time, which means the output's very readable. So errors come through very clearly, but it's very slow. If you imagine it's executing one thing at a time, in this system, I've got 12 cores, well, 12 logical cores. And it means it literally runs about 1/12 the speed it could. If you do a parallel build, it uses all of your cores, but the output tends to get jumbled up. Like here, it's actually got bits of one error message kind of stuck through another one. So it's faster, but the error messages are usually completely incomprehensible. But if I change a header file, so like a .h file, that could mean that any .c file needs recompilation, because you don't know from the build tool which ones import which. Hey, you've got plenty of time to kind of like really get really got your hands dirty and really learn it then. Okay, so I was thinking with this kind of like first kind of like just basic dialogue tree. You'd have kind of like three options because like an angel's bust in and it's like, whoa, your time's arrived, and you'd be kind of like option one would be kind of like sort of acknowledge what appears to be your fate. Hey, am I dead or something? Option two would be who the heck are you? And option three would be get out of my house. Yeah, IP addresses, right? IP addresses are kind of like a bit of a weird thing because they underpin everything pretty much on the internet level. But once you get to like a certain level of complexity, you never really have to think about them because we're only using things like DNS. I think there's a protocol for kind of like in-house kind of discovery. So, say things on your local network because I think it's called Bonjour. Mostly don't have to think about it. There's a couple of things that don't support Bonjour, so you have to kind of use like static IPs or something like that for them. Generally, you can get away without touching IP addresses anymore. But if you've got like say routing tables or AWS security groups in the front where you're going to need raw IPs. So first option is going to be asking the question, am I dead? Next option is going to be third option is okay. So Angel says his piece, and then the game freezes for some reason. I wonder if I have some kind of bug with my render queue. Oh, and then all of the options are just stacked up on top of each other. That's great. What kind of stuff are you doing with USB? Because I've never really like learned anything about the protocol, how it works. It seems kind of complicated. All right. Why did that go wrong? So we've got the ID of the list, and then we're adding 3 items to it. We've done this 100 times. It should work by now. Kind of looks like they're all stacked up on top of one another. This line here is kind of weird. This one's kind of offset to the side. I wonder if this is a bug with my list component. Might see if I can get us a skip to this phase just so I can see whether it reproduces immediately or whether it's possibly a state bug. It's probably a state bug, something I'm not resetting or clearing. I've got to say, I've done the odd experiment recently with, I think they call it D2 Mini. Hang on, is it D2 Mini? You can get these for basically nothing in terms of price, and they're capable of running the Arduino stack, but have built-in Wi-Fi. And I have to say, I was expecting this to be an absolute misery to connect to a Wi-Fi network, and it is shocking how simple it was. It's like 5 lines of code, and you're on Wi-Fi and sending packets. Ah. Guess it's kind of weird because on the one hand, the basic concepts are kind of simple, but understanding them is almost impossible. But then implementing those basic concepts is also almost impossible. Okay, I need to figure out why this has happened. So what I'm gonna try is I'm just gonna turn off all this alignment stuff because I'm wondering if I might have a bug there. Yeah, it's a bug with the alignment system. So yeah, because at the moment I've left aligned it and top aligned it and it's now working. Something I will say that's kind of brilliant about Visual Studio Code is you can do all you can like get account management through there. I generally found that work better than any other way, but it is fiddly, and if you somehow get it into a bad state, it's really difficult to clear it. So, is it horizontal or middle? Oh, I think I know what it is. It's going to be both. If I go through the list component, and there should be a bit in here, because the first line of this is going to be quite narrow, and then the second line is going to be wider. So I think about the way this works is that at the point of like adding a line to the list box, this doesn't know how big the final list box is going to be. So every time you add an item, it needs to actually realign it and resize the images. No problem. I'm actually about to finish in about 5-10 minutes. I'm trying to stick to about an hour a day just so I don't overdo things. But that means this actually needs to move all the items left and up. And I do have some code in here somewhere. I think it's sort of, yeah, it's here, which is meant to be recalculating the offset. And it's probably broken. So it should have recalculated the width by that point. It looks like it has. Let's just run this again, see where it gets stuck. And let's just skip to the end, right at the start. Okay, so now we can kind of like reproduce this right from the beginning and we can sort it out. So the last line is actually correctly aligned. It's the ones after it that aren't. So the ones before it. So there's going to be some logic in here somewhere. There it is. The question is, why is that wrong? Because it's using the same values. Because the final line is positioned correctly, right? It's positioned completely correctly. And it's using the exact same variable. It's going to have the exact same value in it at that point. Is there something wrong with this update method? Because that's entirely possible. So we've got the component ID. We're turning that into an index, into our kind of like list of display data. Ah, I know what it is. I know what it is. It's because we have both a location data. The location data, yeah. So we have actually two lists. We have the location data, which actually, is where it should be. And then the display data is the kind of resulting position on the screen. And I'm updating the position on the screen, not the data that's going to be used to calculate the position on the screen. So it's in, where's the update method? Where is it? There it is. I need to get both the display and the location. I've actually made this mistake more than once now, and I'm rethinking this part of the design if I'm making repeated mistakes here. Oh, what doesn't it like? Oh yeah. I'm trying to get a location out of the display list. There we go. That's more like it. So now I can take this line out of the introduction script. Once again, where was it? It was there. We can get rid of that. Run it again. Okay, and this is where we put callbacks in these so we can select one. And I think that's going to roughly do it for today. So yeah, we did some organization, fixed some bugs, and did a bit of progress on the intro script. Not a lot though. Tomorrow, I might be able to do 2 hours, we'll find out. In which case, I might be able to get all the way through this intro cutscene, given all of the tools that we should need to make this happen will be there. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great evening.